Joining us now is Iraq War veteran, Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego, who serves on the Homeland Security Committee. Senator, thanks for taking the time. In your opinion, is U.S. intervention needed in Iran?
Look, there's a lot of things we can do below the scope of us actually engaging in military action there. We need to support the Iranian dissidents, the protesters. We want Iran to be free. What they're doing is correct, trying to stop this awful regime that has been a plague on not just on the people of Iran, but the whole world. But us mingling in there with military efforts will probably only make it harder for them to actually take power. And we need to really gather the rest of the world and all act in unison. This is when we actually should get the European countries that are still working and having jobs and having economic programs in Iran to actually join with us and actually shutting down the regime and starving them of the dollars that they use to repress their own people.
So talk to us about what those steps look like. What non-military options would you support?
Well, I think very heavy sanctions to the point where the money that goes to the IRGC that they use to repress these people, their own people, starts going away. If the Ayatollah cannot pay his goons, then the goons will not fight anymore. We need to actually go after all these ghost ships and do it using, the international law that we can use, as well as sanctions, to stop them from being able to go to any ports. Again, if they can't sell oil, they can pay their goons. There are so many ways we could do this, but there are a lot of nations around the world that are still a home port for business of Iranians, whether it's India, whether it's Pakistan, some European countries. And these are the countries we need to point to and ask that, do you really want to be, giving money, giving support to this nation that is killing its own people? And by not, supporting them economically, not allowing them to sell their illegal oil around the world, you have a real opportunity to start choking off the support that the money that they use to suppress their own people.
Senator, let's turn to the president's threats to take Greenland. Denmark's foreign minister says there are fundamental differences with the administration. After their meeting yesterday, you also met with him after that White House meeting. Is there a way to address the president's security concerns without handing over Greenland that both sides might support?
No, because this has nothing to do with actual security concerns. This is the president being an idiot. And he is really excited about the idea of taking this big piece of land that's on a map. And he's just using any excuse to actually cover up his idiotic idea. And then you have people like, J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. They're coming up with all these weird excuses. We have access to Greenland. We have a base in Greenland. The Kingdom of Denmark has said you could expand all the bases you want. They have agreed to work with us on economic issues. They've agreed to any type of economic treaty to secure mineral rights, whatever it is. They'll do anything because they certainly don't want to work. But this is just a fit of fancy this president is having, and then all his court jesters around him are coming up with an excuse because the real reason is really dumb. It's just the president is an idiot, and we're all trying to come up with excuses. But the fact is, at the core base, this president is an idiot, and now he's putting that foreign policy into effect, which is going to negatively affect us in the long run in terms of our national security.
You are working on a war powers resolution on Greenland and trying to block Pentagon spending to fund hostilities there. Are you building bipartisan support in the Senate and a unified message on Greenland?
Absolutely. What we found, we have three efforts we're doing: a sense of the Senate, a war powers resolution, and trying to cut off any money that is used to invade Greenland. We have had Republican senators that are joining us and will join us because at the end of the day, we understand how dumb of a move this is. This will economically destroy the United States. It will make us severely less secure because NATO will no longer be aligned with us. They'll be aligned with themselves. And you'd see that our economy just really drop into some really scary levels because the European Union, Canada, all of the free countries of the world would decide that we are no longer a safe haven. We are not a country to be trusted, and they would no longer invest in this in our country ourselves. That would be a terrible, terrible thing to do. And right now, it is hard out there. Everything is hard. It's hard to find a job. It's hard to pay for anything. And this president's going to make it worse by going after something that he only wants for his legacy project and not in the best interests of Americans, the American working class, or our national security.
But what makes you think Republicans are seeing your way. We know a number of your Republican colleagues who had at one point sort of flipped to support the War Powers Resolution on Venezuela, flipped back and blocked that War Powers Resolution that was before the full Senate yesterday. So why would they be in a different mindset this time?
Let's be clear. Yeah, well, let's be clear. This is a different mindset because we're violating our own treaty. You know, we're violating the NATO treaty that was signed and confirmed by Congress, by the Senate, you know, in the early 1950s or 1949, if I remember correctly. Now, you know, that right there is a violation that I think is a red line that I have heard Republicans are not willing to cross. And also, they're hearing the same thing we're hearing. The American public is mad that they can't afford anything, they can't buy anything, their kids are graduating college, and yet we're spending time, money, effort focused on Greenland as if it's somehow going to fix all of our problems. Not only that, it will cause more problems. So Greenland is different from Venezuela, not just because of the temperature, but because it actually would change the trajectory of this country in a negative way, both on national security front and our economic front.
Quickly on immigration, you, of course, represent a border state and also co-sponsored the Laken Riley Act that expanded DHS and ICE powers. Looking at how ICE has been using those funds, those resources, and operating right now, do you still support their mission?
I didn't support their funds when it came to the expansion of ICE through the big bill, better, ugly bill, whatever the heck it is. ICE is clearly not going after the criminals that I hoped they would go to. They're going after people that are in this country that are just doing everyday jobs, that are just going after trying to make the American dream, taking care of their kids. That is something that we Democrats have been very clear that we are not for. That's something that the American public has said they're not for. And what we're seeing actually in Minnesota isn't immigration enforcement. It is suppression. It is suppression of the people of Minnesota. It is using ICE and Border Patrol and all these other people to basically scare the people of Minnesota. So there's going to have to be a lot of things that, should we get power as fast as possible, we're going to have to fix. And it's going to be a lot of reforms, a lot of fixes. We're going to have to fire a lot of ICE agents. We're going to have to prosecute a lot of them to make sure that this type of abuse doesn't happen again.
Senator Ruben Gallego, thank you for your time today. We appreciate you joining us.